Throughout WWE history, they've been known to introduce fans to a brand new gimmick or persona and then proceed to pull that gimmick from TV without any logical kayfabe explanation. The gimmick in question is usually poorly received by the audience, so WWE believe that they have no other choice but to abandon their initial creative pitch and go back to the drawing board. Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 WWE gimmicks that lasted seconds. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Also check out our new channel, Wrestlelamia Shorts. Number 10. Eugene, Villainous persona. The Eugene character was one of the more controversial characters of the Ruthless Aggression era, and by 2006, his character had become incredibly stale. To combat this staleness, WWE took a daring approach with Eugene's character, and they decided to turn him heel. Following a match on Raw which pitted Eugene and Jim Duggan against the Spirit Squad, Eugene attacked Duggan to the surprise of the audience. His villainous persona would continue in the following weeks with him attacking Val Venis, and he would even try to take out DX. The crowd reacted poorly to this heel turn as it made no sense whatsoever, and it wasn't before long that Eugene would revert to his infamous babyface persona. WWE decided to ignore Eugene's heel run altogether, which ultimately further damaged any sense of continuity and substance the Eugene character had. Number 9. Midian, Naked Midian. Most fans know Midian for his time in The Undertaker's Ministry of Darkness stable. However, unfortunately for Midian, when the stable disbanded in '99, he was without a meaningful place on the card, so they were forced to come up with something brand new for the former European champion. WWE would reintroduce Midian as Naked Midian. He would randomly show up during Raw and SmackDown wearing nothing but a fanny pack and a thong. This gimmick was truly insane, and there was no rhyme or reason as to why he was suddenly acting in this erratic manner. This new character would receive a somewhat substantial push in October 2000 as he would challenge William Regal for the European title, but he was unsuccessful. This ludicrous gimmick would eventually be dropped in the months following the No Mercy event, and Midian would be pulled from WWE television with no explanation. Number 8. Ted DiBiase, DiBiase Posse. When the Legacy faction was disbanded in 2010, Ted DiBiase Jr. struggled to find an investable character, and this ultimately led to a demotion down the card. Whereas fellow Legacy member Cody Rhodes introduced the world to dashing Cody Rhodes, DiBiase's attempts at a new character all fell flat. The most notorious character of DiBiase was known as the DiBiase Posse, and to say this gimmick was forgettable was an understatement. The DiBiase Posse gimmick would launch in 2011, and it featured DiBiase as a babyface persona who would host tailgate parties for fans before WWE events. This gimmick could have worked, but DiBiase was evidently struggling in the charisma department, and fans ultimately rejected DiBiase as a babyface. This failed gimmick would lead to the former Legacy member falling even further down the card, where he would eventually remain until his release in 2013. Number 7. Brodus Clay, Main Event Player. One of the problems with comedic gimmicks such as the Funkasaurus is that they have a short shelf life. A gimmick of this nature was going to inevitably get stale. This was most definitely the case with Clay's dancing dinosaur gimmick. When Clay ditched the gimmick, he would debut a brand new persona known as the Main Event Player. The issue here was that Clay had no personality with the character. He was average in the ring, and there was not a single fan that was wanting to see Clay pushed into the main event scene. There's no wonder the gimmick completely flopped, and Clay would find himself moved back to NXT for further development. Number 6. Renee Dupree, Most Extreme Athlete in ECW History. One of the wrestlers WWE saw a ton of value in during the Ruthless Aggression era was Renee Dupree. Dupree was young, he had a great physique, and his in-ring work was decent. In 2006, WWE attempted to make Dupree one of the top heels on the newly revamped ECW brand. Dupree would label himself as the most extreme athlete in ECW history. Dupree would pride himself on his appearance, and the idea behind the character seemed to be that Dupree was everything that the traditional ECW roster wasn't. Dupree was made for Raw or SmackDown, but WWE in all likelihood believed that placing Dupree in ECW would be a catalyst for major heel heat. This gimmick change failed, as the ECW audience just weren't interested in Dupree, and it wasn't before long that WWE began to re-evaluate Dupree's position on the ECW roster. Dupree reformed La Resistance with Sylvain Grenier in 2007, but this reunion was short-lived as Dupree was suspended for a wellness policy violation. Just a few months after this policy violation, Dupree would request his WWE release, and this put an end to the WWE career of the former tag team champion. Number 5. Omos, Bodyguard / Giant Ninja. A few years before Omos was wrestling Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 39, he had a persona that seemed to only last for a few weeks. In 2020, Omos would debut as a member of Akira Tozawa's Ninja faction. Omos was obviously the tallest member of the faction, and he was referred to as the Giant Ninja. This gimmick would go virtually nowhere, and it wasn't before long that Omos was being presented as a doorman and bouncer for Shane McMahon's Raw Underground. It was clear at this point in time that WWE were trying out different gimmicks with Omos, and he would quickly transition into a tag team partnership with AJ Styles, which gave Omos his most successful character run to date. Number 4. Brian Kendrick, the Mascot. Brian Kendrick has had a number of gimmicks throughout his wrestling career, but his very first gimmick in WWE was perhaps his most unusual. Kendrick's first gimmick in WWE would see him become a mascot on Velocity. Kendrick would then represent the local sports team of whichever town WWE were in, and he would change his name each and every week. It wouldn't be long before WWE scrapped this concept for a gimmick, and they would rethink what character Kendrick was going to have when he eventually debuted on SmackDown. Number 3. Big Show Impersonator. Following WrestleMania 16, WWE decided to give Big Show a brand new gimmick. Big Show had just main evented WrestleMania, but instead of continuing this strong presentation of the former WWE champion, they decided to turn Big Show into a full-blown comedic character. Big Show would begin to dress up as a random wrestler from the past and present. The names Big Show impersonated included the likes of Rikishi, the Berserker, Val Venus, and would even dress as Hulk Hogan to become the Showster. The gimmick did showcase Big Show's charisma, but gimmicks of this nature get stale very quickly, and this was the case here. WWE did give Big Show a pay-per-view match with this persona in which he defeated Kurt Angle at the Backlash pay-per-view. But when watching this match, it's clear that Big Show just needed to go back to being a menacing threat, and that's why the gimmick was quickly dropped. Number 2. Jeff Hardy. Conflicted Jeff Hardy. At the start of 2003, WWE took a huge risk by turning Jeff Hardy heel. Hardy would begin to attack fellow babyfaces such as Rob Van Dam and Shawn Michaels, and the fans outright rejected Hardy as a heel. Whilst moral conflict in a character is good, it has to be executed well, and it has to be delivered within the right storyline. This heel run was never going to work, and WWE quickly realized the error of their ways and reverted Hardy back to being a beloved babyface. TNA would attempt to portray Hardy as a heel 7 years later in 2010, and whilst this had more success, the fans just wanted to cheer Jeff, and it's likely that he'll remain as a popular babyface until the day he finally retires. And number 1. Albert, Hip Hop Hippo. Matt Bloom has been given endless gimmicks during his numerous stints in WWE. Some of these gimmicks are notorious for all the wrong reasons, and one of these was when Bloom went from being a member of the X Factor as Albert to a dancing hippo known as the Hip Hop Hippo. Albert with this gimmick would join forces with the incredibly popular Scotty 2 Hotty, and Vince McMahon was trying to replicate the success of Too Cool, but it wasn't the same. Albert looked insanely awkward dancing around the ring, and it was clear to fans that this was a poor imitation of Too Cool. When they realized that turning Albert into a dancing hippo wasn't working, they decided to disband the tag team of himself and Scotty and once again rebranded the former Intercontinental Champion. WWE's next idea was to rebrand Albert as A-Train, and this involved somewhat of a push with feuds with the likes of Edge and The Undertaker, but it wasn't before long that this gimmick also became notably stale. But there you have it folks, 10 WWE gimmicks that just lasted seconds. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.